I read about the concept of amateur radio while at school in the 1970s from an astronomy book. It was on the discovery of radio waves from outer space by Carl G. Jansky, a radio amateur, using his directional 20-meter antenna. This discovery later led to the development of radio telescope and radio astronomy. Just looked up the reference for his original publication now and found it in the Proceedings of the Institute of Radio Engineers 1932. At the time, I never knew that there were radio amateurs right here in my place as well. It was later when I was at college that an article on ham radio in the local newspaper which caught my attention and introduced me to shortwave listening. At the time, I started tuning into ham radio stations in my home radio at 7 MHz, which I later used as a receiver during my life as a radio amateur. Some of the prominent stations were VU2TG, Guhan from Kottayam, Kerala, India, and VU2JN, Professor Jayaraman. There were a few stations on single sideband SSB, which I could not listen at that time because I did not have a beat frequency oscillator BFO, which was needed to introduce a carrier to make SSB stations intelligible on an ordinary radio. My mentor at the time was VU2BY Karan from Kozhikode itself, but I could not master Morse code needed to pass the Amateur Station Operator Certificate ASOC examination at that time. After my graduation, I came back to the hobby under the guidance of VU2NYR Narayan and mastered Morse code. I took the ASOC exam held at Kochi and passed grade 1. Another long wait followed for receiving the license and call sign VU2JFP. It was in mid-1980s that I received my call sign. At that time, a QRP designed by VU2VW and Vasant was very popular, and I homebrewed that solid-state QRP and came on air with phone guidance for the first contact from VU2NYR on CW. Later, AM mode was added and I was regular on 7 MHz, checking into CharminarNet at 7080 regularly. As I gained more experience in hobby electronics, I ventured into homebrewing a vacuum tube QRO with 3x807 obtained from an old radio shop in the city. At that time, high-power RF transistors were not available and there was no chance of homebrewing a solid-state QRO. The QRO opened my world to DX. I could contact several countries on CW and few countries on AM. At that time, contacting WLAND USA was